The smell never leaves you. People think prison smells like sweat, or metal, or sewage. But that's not the smell that stays. It's bleach. Industrial bleach soaked into concrete floors, into old drains, into your memory. I spent most of my life around another smell entirely. Wet soil, animal feed, rusted machinery, old blood drying beneath fluorescent lights. That kind of smell changes a man, slowly. You stop separating living things from dead ones after a while. Everything just becomes inventory. I was born on a farm outside the city. Not the romantic kind people imagine. No red barns, no clean fences, no children running through golden fields. Ours was mud, broken equipment, collapsing sheds, pigs screaming at dawn. My mother cared more about livestock than people. Animals made money. Children didn't. By the time I was 10, I already understood that affection was conditional. You earned food by working. You earned silence by staying useful. And usefulness on a farm means learning very early how flesh behaves. My brother adapted better than I did. He could sleep through anything. Animal screams, machinery, storms shaking the windows. Nothing bothered him. I used to think that made him stronger. Now I think it just made him emptier sooner. I remember watching him hold a dying pig once. We were maybe 12 and 14. The animal had been trampled overnight. Its back legs wouldn't work. Its eyes were wet and wild. My brother didn't flinch. He just pressed the bolt gun against its skull and pulled the trigger. Then he wiped his hands on his jeans and asked what was for breakfast. That was the first time I felt afraid of him. But I didn't say anything. Because on that farm, saying things didn't help. The first thing you learn about slaughter is how ordinary it becomes. At first, the noise bothers you. Then eventually, it fades into routine. You clean the tools, wash the floor, move the remains. Repeat tomorrow. People imagine desensitization as some dramatic collapse of morality. It isn't. It's repetition. That's all. The dangerous thing about repetition is how efficiently it removes reflection. You stop asking whether something feels wrong once your hands know the motions automatically. That's true for surgery, construction, law enforcement, farming. And eventually, for killing too. I remember the first time I held a bolt gun. My mother handed it to me like a garden hose. No ceremony, no warning. Just her rough fingers wrapping mine around the handle. "It's quicker than bleeding them out," she said. "Quicker means kinder." The animal looked at me before it fell. That look stayed with me longer than her face ever did. But after 100 animals, after 1,000, the look stopped meaning anything. That's what repetition does. It turns living things into objects. And objects cannot be mourned. When my brother and I inherited the property, the city had already started growing toward us. Developers wanted the land. Officials kept visiting with paperwork and promises. But we stayed, mostly because neither of us knew how to live anywhere else. The farm looked abandoned from the road. Mountains of scrap metal, old machinery, broken fencing, mud deep enough to swallow boots. But inside the main building, there were always people. Truckers, drifters, bikers, addicts. People trying to disappear for a few hours. That's the thing about isolated places. They attract isolation. We started hosting parties because parties made the place seem harmless. Music, alcohol, lights strung through filthy buildings. People assume danger announces itself clearly, but the safest hiding place in the world is somewhere people already dismiss as weird. That farm became background noise to the entire region. Everyone knew about it, which meant nobody truly saw it anymore. My brother handled the parties. He was good with people in ways I never learned. He'd laugh loudly, pour drinks, slap shoulders, make everyone feel welcome. I handled the back rooms, the spaces people didn't ask about. Because on a farm that size, there are always rooms that stay locked, always corners that remain dark, always questions that never get asked out loud. And somewhere between the music and the mud, we built something neither of us named. A system, a habit, a hunger. Choose your word carefully. The city ignored certain women back then. You could feel it in the way officers spoke about them. Missing didn't mean urgent if the person disappearing was poor enough, or addicted enough, or alone enough. People vanish differently, depending on their social value. That sounds cruel, but it's true. Some disappearances become headlines, others become paperwork. I used to hear detectives joke in diners late at night. They'd talk about women starting over somewhere, as if entire lives just evaporate politely without leaving consequences behind. Neglect creates opportunity. That's something institutions never admit out loud, but predators understand it immediately. I wasn't always a predator. That's important to say. I started as someone just watching, observing, noticing which streets stayed dark longest, which bars served last call to women who had nowhere else to go. Observation isn't a crime, but observation without intervention becomes permission. And permission is a very soft door to walk through. There was a woman I remember clearly, not because she was different, because she reminded me of someone I couldn't name. She stood outside a gas station at 2 a.m., barefoot in November. Her coat was too thin. Her hands were shaking. I pulled over, rolled down the window, asked if she wanted a ride. She looked at me for a long time, longer than most. Then she got in. That was the last night anyone saw her. I still think about her eyes sometimes, not with guilt, just recognition of something I destroyed that didn't need to be destroyed. But thinking doesn't bring people back, and I stopped believing in redemption a long time ago. I used to drive into the city late at night. The streets near the industrial district were always wet, rain reflecting neon signs, cigarette smoke outside bars, people standing beneath flickering lights pretending not to be cold. Most of the women trusted easily once money entered the conversation. Not because they were foolish, because survival trains people to ignore dangers selectively. A warm truck, fast cash, somewhere to sleep for an hour. Sometimes that's enough. I learned quickly that listening mattered more than talking. People tell you everything if they think you're calm enough. Their addictions, their families, their fears, and eventually, their vulnerabilities. Most predators don't hunt with force first. They hunt with patience. My brother and I developed a rhythm over the years. He would charm, I would watch. He would offer drinks, I would prepare the back rooms. We never said the truth out loud, never named what we were doing, never sat down and planned explicitly. That's how families like ours survive, by not acknowledging the obvious. But the bodies accumulated. Not quickly, not dramatically. Just one every few months. Enough to feel invisible, not enough to feel urgent. The city's neglect became our architecture, and the farm swallowed everything. I remember counting once, late at night, sitting on the edge of my bed in the farmhouse, staring at my boots still caked with mud. I reached 12 before I stopped. Not because I felt guilty, because I realized I had forgotten some of their faces, and forgetting felt worse than remembering. That was the night I started drinking before sunrise, and I didn't stop until the handcuffs went on. There were moments when I almost stopped. Late nights alone in the truck, rain on the windshield, my hands shaking despite the warmth. I would sit in the driveway for an hour before going inside, just breathing, just pretending I could turn around and drive away and never come back. But the farm always pulled me back. Not because I loved it, because I didn't know who I was without it. My brother never had those moments. Or if he did, he never showed them. He'd wake up cheerful, make coffee, ask about the weather, as if the night before had been completely ordinary. Sometimes I envied him. Mostly, I feared him. Because emptiness that complete isn't strength. It's something else entirely. Something I'm still trying to name from inside this cell. I wrote him a letter once, early in our sentences, before they transferred him to a different facility. I asked if he ever thought about the farm, about the women, about any of it. He never wrote back. But 6 months later, a guard handed me a note, just one sentence, torn from a legal pad. Don't write to me again. That was the last contact we ever had. And somehow, that silence hurt worse than the trial, worse than the sentencing, worse than any of it. The bleach started making sense eventually. Not as a cleaning product, as a way of thinking. You pour bleach over concrete to remove evidence, but you also pour it over memory, over guilt, over the part of yourself that still flinches. Eventually, the bleach smell stops bothering you, and that's when you know you're not coming back. There's a woman 2 cells down from me now. She's serving time for fraud, white collar, embezzlement. She asked me once what I did. I told her. She didn't speak to me for 3 weeks after. When she finally did, her voice was quieter, colder. The way people get when they realize evil isn't always loud. You could have stopped, she said. I didn't answer, because she was right. And that's the part I still can't look at directly. We were caught because of a dog. Not a search warrant, not a confession, not a witness brave enough to speak. A dog wandering near the tree line, digging, barking, refusing to leave. The neighbor who called it in was just annoyed by the noise, but the officer who responded had been on the force for 20 years. He knew what disturbed earth looked like, knew what animal behavior meant when animals refused to stop digging. They found the first body within 2 hours. Then another. Then another. By sunrise, the farm was surrounded by vehicles I couldn't count. Red and blue lights reflecting off the mud. Officers in white suits kneeling in the grass. I watched from the kitchen window. My brother was still asleep upstairs. And for one strange moment, I felt relief. Not because I wanted to be caught, because I was tired of carrying something too heavy to name. The news called us monsters. But monsters aren't made in one moment. Monsters are built slowly, quietly, in farmhouses without love, in childhoods without softness, in routines that replace reflection with repetition. My brother didn't speak during the trial. Not once, not a single word. He just sat there, empty, calm, as if the courtroom was just another room on the farm. I wanted to hate him, but hate requires distinction between self and other. And by then, I wasn't sure the distinction existed anymore. Now I sit in this cell. The bleach smell here is different, institutional, sterile. No blood beneath it, no mud. Just clean concrete and clean guilt and clean loneliness. The woman in the cell to my left asks me sometimes why I did it. I never give her the same answer twice, because the truth is, I don't have one answer. I have 1,000 small answers, each one buried beneath the last. Like bodies on a farm, like memories soaked in bleach. My brother died last year. Prison hospital, liver failure. He didn't ask for me at the end. I don't know if I would have gone even if he had. Some doors close permanently, not because you lock them, because you finally realize there was never anyone on the other side worth finding. I dream about him sometimes, not as he was at the end, as he was on the farm, young, quiet, standing in the mud while rain soaked through his shirt. In the dream, he always turns away before I can speak, and I wake up with my hands empty, reaching for something that was never there. The smell never leaves you. Not because it's strong, because it becomes part of how you breathe. And once something becomes part of your breathing, you stop noticing it until you're already suffocating. I suffocated a long time ago. Probably on that farm, probably in that childhood, probably the first time I held a bolt gun and felt nothing. The rest was just repetition. And repetition is the most patient monster of all. If you're listening to this, if someone found these words and played them back, don't look for answers in the details. The farm has been demolished now. The records are sealed. Most of the families never got the closure they deserved. But if you want to understand something, understand this. Violence doesn't begin with a weapon. It begins with a childhood that teaches you not to flinch. And some of us were never taught anything else. The lights just flickered. That means count is coming soon. I'll turn off the recorder now. Same as every night. Same as every repetition. Same as always.